states, and it is benefiting the very people that go around yammering about socialism all the time when they are the beneficiaries of income redistribution from blue states to red states. So if anybody is benefiting from a, quote, socialist redistribution scheme, how fascinating. It's mainly red states.
Joe, you said it better than I said. The blue states are wealthier than the red states. And so in our system, where we try to make people more equal, yes, government has tilted in favor of the red states, the same government that Trump would like to reduce or dismantle.
Yeah, what about education funds? I mean, because, again, so many leaders in these red states talk about, oh, it's socialism, and then they take money from blue states. The income redistribution goes that way. And they also complain about education. Oh, education is, well, it's Washington, D.C.'s doing this, it's doing that. And yet, overwhelmingly, it's the red states that are the greatest beneficiary of education funding.
Exactly. So let's talk about two pieces of education funding. First, let's talk about Head Start. Head Start primarily benefits children in rural communities, lower income communities, and so forth. So it's not surprising that the top funded state under Head Start is Mississippi, which gets $56.84 per resident back. And you can see then it's West Virginia, it's Louisiana, it's Kentucky, it's Wyoming. Red state average, $22.42. Top blue state, Michigan, $25.77, is actually below the fifth red state, Wyoming, and the average is down here at $17.22. But what's important to know about this is a program that Project 2025 would kill. So the Republicans that are in effect proposing a policy that would actually hurt their constituents a good bit more than it would hurt the constituents of blue states. Another similar example of that is teachers. A lot of teachers' jobs in lower income areas are funded by what's called Title I. You can see here the largest percentage of teachers supported by Title I is Louisiana at 12%. But you've got Mississippi, you've got Alabama, you've got Florida. You've got New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, swing states and red states principally benefiting. Once again, the Republicans would eliminate this funding, send it back to the states, say you deal with this problem, disproportionately hurting their own constituents.
Yeah, they want to get rid of Head Start, and some want to get rid of the Department of Education altogether. So, Steve, let's look at your final chart, which focuses on the Inflation Reduction Act, which we've heard Donald Trump and others rail against. How is it boosting investment?
So this is a program obviously mostly proposed by the Democrats. And it is, again, ironically, a program that would help has helped so far the red states more than the blue states. First, let's look at the IRA in general. The Inflation Reduction Act has sent, as you would expect, as we hoped, clean investment soaring. It's actually way above anything we thought was going to happen. Huge outpouring of investment in everything from wind farms to solar panels to home insulation to all the kinds of things that we hope will save energy. But look where the investment has come. And this is through a tax credit system. This is not bureaucrats sending the money there. This is kind of where the action is. And you can see in the red states, the amount of investment in this from 2 years before IRA to the 2 years post-IRA has gone up 84%. 57 billion to 105. It's actually gone down in blue states. I'm not quite sure why, but it has. And so the vast beneficiaries of the IRA, which the Republicans have also tried to kill, are the red states.
All right. Morning, Joe. Economic analyst Steve Ratner, thank you. And Elise Jordan, your thoughts on this? You're from Mississippi, a state where I guess Joe Biden would say, I'll see you at the groundbreaking.
Well, there are plenty. There's a Republican administration in Mississippi that would love to toss out any funding that they get from the federal government. You look at how they've refused consistently to expand Medicaid and bring in billions of dollars. Head Start is one of the most successful public policy programs in this country in terms of starting children out on the right foot, and a great investment, actually. I believe it's something like a threefold investment what you spend on early childhood. So these initiatives are so important to rural America. And, you know, it's really kind of a bulwark against one-party rule in states like Mississippi.
Yeah, Mike Barnicle, the hypocrisy is just, it is just overwhelming. And, of course, so much about what the Trump Republican Party does is hypocritical. But they sneer and are always talking about socialism, and yet most of those red states, as Steve Ratner showed, is something that we've already known. that it's the blue states that have money taken from them to fund red states. That's called income redistribution.
Oh.
And they take that money. As Mika said, it's just like the yahoos that voted against Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. And then they go to the groundbreaking going, look what I've done for you. And it goes on and on. And on Medicaid, they shout, they yell about Medicaid. Medicaid not only helps economically disadvantaged people in their state, it helps elderly people with nursing homes. It helps a whole range of Americans that these Republican governors need their votes for. So again, the question is, why is it that they're allowed to continue to get away with this outrageous hypocrisy?
I don't know. I do not know, because it's prevalent, and it's two things. One particular set of programs they're opposed to are life-changing in terms of Medicaid, things like that. The other bulk of programs that they are universally opposed to are life-changing as well. Head Start, educational programs for kids in rural states and poor states. We've seen that the red states versus blue states are carrying the load financially. And yet the Republicans, as you pointed out, and it's one of the most hypocritical things that occurs each and every year since the IRA was passed, is Republican legislators going to bridge openings or rail improvements, whatever, an announcement about this has changed now, this is going to be better, saying, yes, this is what we want, and they voted against it. It's
there you go.
replete with hypocrisy.
It's replete with hypocrisy. And Willie, you know, California, which we've talked about their problems with crime, we've talked about their quality of life problems. That's got to get fixed. And you know, you can't just talk about it. They need to fix it. They need to not only change their laws, they need to make sure the new laws they put in place have teeth to it. So quality of life, a real quality of life returns to that state. But when it comes to economics, you've got Republicans always talking about it being socialist paradise. California's the worst place to work. California this, California that. Well, we've said it on this show all the time. California has the fourth largest GDP in the world. More people choose to work in California and make money in California than in Great Britain, as far as just financially profitable, than Great Britain, than India. You can go down the list. California has the fourth largest GDP. You know what else this socialist paradise does? Gives more money away to red states than red states. Again, rank hypocrisy up and down these socialist red states that rail against socialism while taking money from blue states.
Yeah, and I mean, you see the benefits. Steve laid it out well of something like Head Start, of these programs. So it's not to say that the government is bad and spending is bad in all cases. It's not to say it can't be reined in either. But these are programs that benefit a lot of people in those states. So to get rid of the Department of Education, for example, to get rid of Head Start has a real-world impact on all of those things. And as you say, we point out, Silicon Valley, California, some of the very CEOs, the founders, saying it's a socialist paradise are worth, I don't know, $100 billion or something like that for companies they created in California.
And Willie, excuse me, but they also, guess what? They rail, these libertarian bros, they rail against federal handouts, and what do? They're first in line to get corporate welfare for all of their businesses. The big ones, first in line to get corporate welfare in the form of funds, in the form of partnerships with the feds, in the form of tax breaks, you name it. They believe, you know, they believe in capitalism when it comes to poor single mothers. They believe in socialism when it comes to their own multinational corporations.
Well said. We've seen it time and again. Another big story this morning, guys, the Biden administration announcing a sweeping set of actions to tackle a major Russian government-backed effort to influence the 2024 U.S. presidential election. This is coming from the Justice Department, actually. NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk has the details.
With 2 months to go before the election, the Biden administration says it is cracking down on foreign countries trying to influence opinion in the U.S. The target, Russia. The DOJ announcing the seizure of 32 internet domains used or sponsored by the Russian government, it says, to spread bogus news stories.
These websites were designed to appear to American readers as if they were major U.S. news sites.
The DOJ also indicting 2 employees of the Russia-funded media company RT, which was banned in the U.S. following the invasion of Ukraine.
Since at least last year, RT has used people living and working inside the U.S. to facilitate contracts with American media figures.
The 2 Russian nationals are accused of running a $10 million scheme to fund and direct a U.S. company producing videos, mostly directed to the publicly stated goals of the Russian government, according to the indictment.
The U.S. company Stephanie mentioned in her report produced 2,000 YouTube videos that racked up more than 16 million views since launching just in November of last year. According to the indictment, about $8.7 million was paid to the production companies of 3 online commentators. One of them, who prosecutors say has 2.4 million followers on YouTube, received $400,000 a month plus a $100,000 signing bonus. That commentator had to make just 4 videos a week for that cash. Joining us now, Democratic member of the Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut. Senator, it's good to have you with us this morning. A lot to talk to you about, but let's start right here. What is your reaction to what you read in those more than 30 pages of the Justice Department indictment, laying out chapter and verse how a state media organization in Russia, therefore the Russian government, funneled money to conservative influencers to spout their propaganda here in the U.S.?
This is a stunning indictment, and it really shows potentially how deeply integrated Russia is with the MAGA media environment. This company that is described in Tennessee is a pretty well-known MAGA media company. It has on its payroll many of the top pro-Trump voices in this country, and they were knowingly conspiring with Russia, using millions of dollars to put content online and to pay a number of pro-Trump commentators that, have been pushing an anti-Harris and pro-Russia narrative for months. So, unfortunately, this may be the tip of the iceberg. It is possible that there are many other mainstream conservative websites that are in the pocket of the Russian government. And I'm glad that the Justice Department is on top of this. I'm glad that the notice is now out to any other MAGA media companies that may be taking Russian money, that this is not going to be permitted and that you're going to be held accountable if you're doing business with Vladimir Putin.
So, Senator, we want to also talk to you about yesterday's school shooting in Georgia that left 4 people dead and a 14-year-old suspect in police custody. Before we discuss it, NBC News correspondent Priya Sridhar has the latest.
Horror in Winder, Georgia, after officials say a suspected shooter opened fire in Appalachia High School.
There's a 14-year-old student here at the high school. Again, he has been taken into custody. He will be charged with murder, and he will be tried as an adult.
This video capturing terrifying